Back in 1993, then President Clinton signed a formal apology to Hawaii for the illegal, or to Hawaiians rather, for the illegal overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom 100 years before, back in 1893, right? So here he is pictured here signing the apology, which had actually been ratified by both both houses, both the Senate. These are the senators here, Daniel Inouye and Senator Akaka, and then also our congressman Patsy Mink at the time, and Neil Abercrombie, and then here is Vice President Al Gore standing by. So the nation, the United States, acknowledged the overthrow and apologized. And Patsy Mink called it a spectacular moment for Hawaiian history. Daniel Akaka called it a great time for Hawaii. Acknowledging that Liliuokalani was toppled back in 1893 by a rebellion led by an American minister, not a religious minister, but probably a diplomat, to Hawaii, and supported by U.S. military forces. No blood was shed, but it was at that time that the U.S. government took over over Hawaii. And so after this moment, America had more of a presence here. Military began to move in, and the culture of Hawaii changed. The culture and the language and the governance in Hawaii changed. The formal apology acknowledging the nation's part in that coup was approved this fall by both the Senate and the House of Representatives. So Native Hawaiian activists, active in the 1990s and fighting for sovereignty, for independence from the United States government, which was something that was kind of radical at the time, wrote this poem responding to the apology rather. This is a poem that was published in 2008 and might have been published, or might have been read out loud or published earlier, but the latest publication I can find was in 2008. And here it is, Apologies by Haunani Trask. Slogans of cheap grace rather than land. We apologize, but not 1 acre of taro, 1 river of water, 1 handful of labor. We apologize, and all our dead and barely living rejoice. For now we own 12 dirty pages of American paper to feed our people and govern our nation. So pretty short, simple poem, seems to be pretty straightforward, but there are a couple of words that kind of stick out, okay, that kind of, they seem strange, okay? Even that first word, slogans of cheap grace. It's kind of a mouthful, slogans of cheap grace. Slogans, you have political slogans. Slogans are usually things like in advertising. They're kind of meaningless. They kind of are for sale, slogans. And then she talks about owning 12 pages of American paper. That word own is kind of weird. Owning paper? Now we own this paper. And then even that phrase, American paper, American made paper? Why is the paper American, right? But we know that it's American paper because this is the paper that Clinton is upon which he's signing. So a few words that kind of make the seemingly simple poem, just a few sentences long, kind of a little bit confusing, like there's something going on there. Ultimately, this poem is totally sarcastic. The poem is just dripping with sarcasm. Even if you read that line, we apologize, as sincerely as you possibly can, we apologize. It's empty. It's sarcastic. We apologize. There's just an emptiness there. They're not sorry for anything, is what, when you read those words sarcastically, it's what that suggests. We don't really apologize for anything. And then there's this weird line, and all are dead and barely living rejoice. It's hard to figure out because there's this comma there. Is she telling her dead and barely living to rejoice? I don't think so. I think she's put the comma there to indicate kind of a little pause. And she's saying that she's saying the dead and the barely living rejoice, that they are rejoicing. But guys, do you think the dead and barely living are rejoicing over an apology? I do not think so. The barely living do not care about an apology. They need medicine, they need food, they need to thrive so that they can survive. And the dead certainly don't care about an apology. So even this line is also full of sarcasm, because they are not rejoicing. They don't care about an apology. Ultimately, the poem is calling for is about land and governance and calling for sovereignty and self-governance. She does not want slogans. She does not want grace, which is like forgiveness. She doesn't want forgiveness. She does not want, right, they can apologize. She's not forgiving them. She does not want paper. She does not want these empty promises, these empty words. What she wants is tarot, water, labor, and ultimately those things together equal land. Right. And so I highlighted a picture of the tarot, which is kind of a symbolic of land. She wants to, and with this tarot and water and labor, she will be able to feed her people. And by feeding them and ensuring their sustenance, she can perhaps govern the people. So what's interesting about this poem, Apologies, is that the idea of the empty apologies continues to resonate and be important. Just last year, President Biden issued a formal apology for Indian schools, the schools that had been active from 1819 to well into the 1900s. And as we know, these schools neglected Native American children, and erased their tribal identities, in addition to, abuse at some schools. And so eventually in 2024, I believe this was 2024, it might have been 2023, Biden apologized. So the transcript says, "I formally apologize as President of the United States for what we did. I formally apologize." And then there's cheering. It's long overdue. It was a 20-minute speech, and he included a statement that this had happened, right? Part of the apology is it's just acknowledging this happened. This is real. There's no debate over whether this happened. This happened. And we apologize because we acknowledge it was wrong, and it's public, and we put it out there. So a lot of people would say it's worth something. But Trask, in her poem Apologies, points out that these apologies are empty. They're meaningless, and she doesn't want them. She wants reparations. She wants money. She wants land. She wants something substantive in return. So it's just interesting that the idea of these apologies continues to resonate today.